they hadn't gone to pick it up for days and days and days, and days turned into weeks. And what the neighborhood people had to do is they'd take their trash and they'd put it in the car, and then they'd drive it out to some far out place and throw the trash over there. Like, the situation was really bad.
What up, what up, what up? What's happening? Que lo que miente? Welcome to Love, Purpose, and Passports. Hope all is well and all the passport ready, a passport getting ready. For those of you that don't know, I am Mr. Pro for you, living in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, with this beautiful, flu-free, fine, fit, feminine lady of mine.
Flu-free. Hola, saludos.
So how you doing today, Miss Flu-free Pro for you?
We have had a few weeks. We had a terrible flu. We both got sick. I had a molar removed, and we have just been out for the count for weeks. For the count. You know what I'm saying? I went on and knocked a couple of them out. You know what I mean? Just to kind of keep the party going. But woo, that Dominican flu wasn't no joke. Mm-hmm. It was serious.
We're still trying to get it together, but we back.
We're back.
And today, we got something for you. We know that a lot of times, you know, people want to know about apartments out here, and, you know, we want to give you the ins and outs when you're apartment searching. We're specifically going to talk about residenciales. Residenciales, you know what they are? Gated community apartments. Mm-hmm. Affordable. You know, there might be 20 or 30 buildings. And, you know, when we say affordable, we mean like, you know, in residenciales, you might get like a 3-bedroom for like what, $600, $600, you know, maybe $500, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, something like that. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to only tell you about that. What we're going to tell you about is the ins and outs of looking for a proper residenciales for yourself, what to look for. Because there's a lot of things that you won't understand about when you're searching, what to look for that you don't want. And so we're going to share about a few of those things with you next. These are some very basic things that you should look for or inquire about when you're looking for an apartment, especially like in the residenciales. The first one we want to talk about is water. In the U.S., we take water for granted. We just roll up, turn that thing on, let it run for a while, go holler, come back with it running, you know, might take a sip, you know what I mean? Like, hey. But here, you got to be concerned about your water, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's certain things that happen, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can literally end up with no water.
And that's uncomfortable.
That's uncomfortable.
You realize how much you need water when there's no water.
Mm-hmm.
Just the dishes, the shower, even the flushing of the toilet.
Flushing everything.
You know, laundry, everything.
So what happens sometime when an apartment, like, say for instance, you know, we want to get a residenciales somewhere, right?
Right.
We want to find out.
To a residencial, okay.
Mm-hmm. We want to find out about the water situation.
Right.
What will we ask them? What could possibly happen if we don't ask?
Well, okay. Couple things for you to think about and look out for. So when there's big residenciales like that, they tend to have 2 water sources where they like store water. So the water comes in from the water utility place, and then they tend to store it in like a cisterna. It's huge. It's underneath the buildings. So the water comes in underground, and then they'll store it there. And then what they'll do is they'll turn on a water pump, and then that water pump will feed the water into the apartments. So they'll have the water there, but then they'll have a backup thing that's called a tinaco. A tinaco is like this round.
These big tanks on the roof.
Right. It's a big tank that's on the roof. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that the utilities company doesn't always send water every day all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's why that reservoir that's underneath the buildings is so important, because it stores the water. So when they send it, they store it, and then it goes up to the tinaco. Something for you to take into consideration is the tinacos. Sometimes what people don't realize is because the tinacos are so heavy, there's a limit on the amount of tinacos that can be placed in a roof, right? Because it's so heavy, it weighs the roof down. So what ends up happening is 2 apartments will share a tinaco without knowing they're actually sharing a tinaco. So sometimes certain if you've lived in certain places, you have a habit of storing water, right? You don't really trust the system too much. The water will not come as much as you want. So what people do is they'll empty out their tinacos and they'll have like tanks in their own home. So sometimes if you're in a residencial, it might be that you'll turn on the water and the water won't be on because someone has taken, your neighbor has taken the water from the tinaco thinking that they need to store it
because there may not be any or something. And they, you know, or also sometimes one of the things, well, this is not one of the things that you can really like do anything about ahead of time, but say your neighbor has a leak and your neighbor has a leak and the water runs out. Yeah. And then you wonder why you don't have any water. Exactly. These are the type of things you have to wonder about when you're living in the apartments out here, is being able to have water all the time, because you can't take it for granted like we do in the States. It's not just going to be water. Sometimes there won't be any water for if some type of situation comes up. But like you said, you share them. They turn the water on early where it just goes up to the tanks up there. And the tanks hold enough water where you don't even really think about it, right?
No.
It's just that some areas are different, little bits. It gets a little scarce sometimes, right?
Right. Well, exactly. So what you do is if you're going to move into these areas, you always kind of ask what the water situation is like. Are you going to be sharing a tinaco? And what does the administration do when there is a lack of water? What's the process? Do they pay for, water to get shipped in so they can fill out the cisternas? Like what's the process? So if you're moving into one of these locations and you're sitting down with the admin and you're having like those talks with them, ask them about the situation. Will they be sharing tinacos? What's it like? How big is the reservoir? Is it enough for everyone? How's the water situation here? What happens if there is no water? And just ask those questions to see,
Yep. And the reason we say that is like in the capital, it's pretty good. But a lot of times you may hear about good deals on residenciales, like even if you want to purchase one or if you're renting one, the rent may be low or the purchase price may be relatively low on the outskirts. And a lot of times the outskirts to us is a little bit different because we kind of measure it coming from the airport.
Sorry, I almost sneezed. Okay, sorry. We're still getting over a cold. Yeah. Okay.
So we measure it coming from the airport. Coming from the airport to people in the capital, that's the outskirts.
Yeah.
But you may find something on the way to coming from the airport that they just built. They look new. They look great. But sometimes the utility situation isn't always up to par at first.
He made a really good point. He said that some of these residenciales are new. And what ends up happening is when you're in a new residencial, and when I say new, I don't mean like they just built it. I mean like they built out a city. Like it would, a few years ago, there was no land. There was nothing there. It was just land. And then they built up a city. What ends up happening is because the city is brand new, sometimes the utility services and the plumbing and the pipes, maybe they built it not taking into consideration how many people would live there. So right now you tend to hear a lot of stories about those places in the outskirts that are having issues with water and things like that. So something to take into consideration, just like he said. But if you're going to rent or move or live somewhere in the outskirts, definitely ask questions about water.
About the water. Let's see. Okay.
Electricity.
Electricity. Okay. So the next one, electricity. Another thing you take for granted, you can't take it for granted here. Because no matter what, you're going to have some outages. The question is, how many outages?
For how long?
And for how long? Yeah. Because you can have a series of little outages. You know what I'm saying? It ain't really hurt nothing. You know what I'm saying? But now, and the reason I say, let me explain why I'm saying that a series of, like, if let's say you have 5 outages in one day. to the, to somebody normal in the States, be like, dang, that's all it. But each outage was 10 minutes. No big deal.
Especially if you have an inverter, right?
You're going to have an inverter, and so when you have an inverter, that's kind of like a generator that just runs on batteries. We've talked about that before, so you guys should be familiar with it, with what an inverter is. But the inverter is going to kick in. So 5 outages, even though that can be considered a lot, no big deal. But some of these places, again, on the outskirts and in different areas, that once the electricity is off for 24 hours, now you got a problem.
Sometimes for days, eh?
And the people get upset, don't they?
They do get upset. And if you think about it, you don't have electricity, the grocery stores don't have electricity, the supermarkets don't have electricity.
Nope.
So now the groceries that you bought in the refrigerator are all going bad. You don't sleep well at night.
Everything in the freezer is melting.
If you work from home, it's a problem. I mean, I understand, you could have an inverter, but the inverter is only going to last like what, 8-9 hours?
8-9 hours. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. See, that's why we were saying, a series of electric outages, no big deal. Speed bumps. Boom, boom, keep it pushing. You know what I mean? You ain't tripping. Hey, electricity's out again. 10 minutes later, like, yeah. Nothing. But some of these cities now, some of these areas, I don't know if that's Este. Was it out in Este when they was burning tires or something?
We just the news was showing. Yeah, it was on the Este side, Santo Domingo Este. It was showing how the people were upset. They were angry. They were frustrated. They were upset. They were promised one thing, and then when they got there, the electricity wasn't what they promised. And had they known that, maybe they wouldn't have moved out there or whatever. So they took to the streets and they protested.
Yeah.
And the situation is not fixed, but they're doing what they can, what they can. What ends up happening, like if you're in the older residenciales, sometimes they have a lot of power outages because maybe the equipment needs to be fixed or
whatever the grid they have
there.
Some of the grids are old. Yep.
And then there's another situation too. Locations where the majority of the people that live in that area don't pay electricity, they tend to not provide as much electricity to that sector, right? Because that sector is consuming more electricity than what they're paying for. So what ends up happening is they'll ration it. So if you're in an area where there's low payment of electricity, you're going to be subject to more outages.
And it's going to be hard for you to tell, especially if you're not from out here.
Yeah, but at least it's a reason why.
It's a reason why. Yeah, it's a reason why. Because like say it's a new residentialis, to you it looks new, but the surrounding areas have some severe poverty where they're not even really paying for electricity like that. They'll cut the electricity just to, like she said, they'll ration it out. You don't know it. Right?
There are still some places here that don't have like the habit of paying for electricity like regularly. You know what I mean?
Some of them don't even have meters, huh, to get it, do they?
I mean, they're supposed to, but maybe you go too far out into like the campos or something like that. Yeah, they'll connect to a light pole and then that's how they have electricity.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So what should they ask about in those type of situations? Ask it, just kind of basically ask if the electricity's
I would ask if they have. But I would also ask if they have like a general generator. Like for example, when you're in a residencial, there's obviously outside, right? There's going to be street lights. There's going to be lights to light up the area around the thing. If you're in one of those residenciales that to open the door, you need some type of electrical, like a key card or a button or something that uses electricity. What's the building policy? Do they have like a generator that powers everything when the electricity goes out, or is everything going to be in the dark when the electricity goes out? What's the policy there? Like what happened? You don't want to be completely in the dark. Like you want the residencial to at least be lit, right? Where security can kind of see what's going on. Still, like safety is a
exactly.
thing.
They have a generator that controls the the hallway lights.
Yeah, that's exactly. Like what do they ask questions about that? What do they have there? And then, if you want, ask a neighbor, ask someone in the area, go to the colmado and say, hey, I'm thinking about moving here. What's the electricity like?
How often is the electricity out? Yep.
See what they say. People won't lie.
Nope.
They'll tell you. Nope, if it's a problem, they will tell you.
Yeah. If you hear coño in the sentence,
it's a no. It's a big no.
Okay. So this one right here, this one can be a problem. They all can be a problem. That's why we're bringing these to you.
Yeah.
Be aware, take notes, and ask about these. This next one is trash. It's not like when we're in the States that, the trash truck is just going to ride by and, pick up the trash at a certain time every day just because certain times during the week, certain days, because that's just how it is. That's not how it is. You have some residenciales that have horror stories about the trash situations where they ain't picked up the trash, right?
Yeah, I have a coworker who, he doesn't live there anymore, but when he was living in Residencial, he said that they hadn't gone to pick it up for days and days and days, and days turned into weeks. And what the neighborhood people had to do is they'd take their trash and they'd put it in the car and then they'd drive it out to some far out place and throw the trash over there. Like, the situation was really bad.
It was bad.
They moved from there and never looked back because of the trash.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something to think about.
It is something to think about. And the thing is, like, sometimes things they can just evolve into something that it wasn't when you moved in there. And we have another one we're going to talk about of things that evolve that you need to consider sometimes when you get in these brand new residenciales. But the trash thing, ask about it. Ask what days they come and see what they say.
Well, I actually even have another suggestion that'll probably be easy. So in the residenciales, they'll have like little casetas, like little areas where you throw the trash, right? Like buildings 1 through 10 will throw the trash here. Building 7 through will throw the trash
have
there,
it's like a shed that has the trash can. Not a shed, but it's just a little structure
like a little house,
that has the trash bins in there. And there's like one for every couple buildings or something like that. However they have it set up. But it's inside. It's like you'll open the doors and put it in and close the doors back.
So what you can do is, if you're going to be in a location, drive around the area and look and see if those trash things are overflowing.
Yeah.
Look and see if there's garbage outside of the trash things, because that means that either they're not picking up the trash as much as they should pick up the trash, or they don't have enough locations to throw the trash out for the amount of people that live there. Yeah, like if, maybe when they built the place, they thought, we're only going to need 5, but so many people moved in, they didn't realize that they really needed 10. So now the 5 are overflowing, which is a big problem.
It is.
Gross.
So
it brings all types of little critters and rodents, and
so
it smells bad. It looks bad.
Ask about it. You can't, these are the type of things we're telling you about that you just really can't see sometimes when you first move there. You see the prices right. Yeah. You see the places look good. It looks, as a whole, it looks good because they're brand new. You don't know. Right. So you have to ask these questions, and find about that trash. Like I said, when she told me about that horror story about her coworker, can you imagine? Nobody's picked up your trash for weeks. What are you going to do? It's
like the men in the residencial took it upon themselves to take turns to like throw out their little garbage. Like 3 or 4 apartments got together and said, well, we're just going to throw out our own stuff. You'll do it today, you do it tomorrow, and you do it the next day. And everybody on their way to work will put some trash in the truck. Huh? Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible for them. They moved and never looked back.
So this next one, neighbors. Ooh, your favorite people in your building and in your residenciales, your gated community. At first, so she told me about this at first, you know what I'm saying? And I've kind of seen it a little bit. Okay. A lot of times when the residenciales first open, the people living in those buildings are mainly owners, right? Because they made their investment, they moved in. Then, after a while, they'll move out and start renting out their place. Well, over time, the neighbors begin to become, a different caliber of neighbors. It's very affordable. And a lot of times in these places, it might be 2 or 3 baby mamas living in one apartment. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say families, but okay, 2 or 3 families. But, 2 or 3 baby mamas and stuff. You know what I mean? I don't think it's 2 or 3 husband and wife combos living in there. You know what I mean? But
we haven't seen that yet, no.
No, it's mostly baby mamas and stuff. 2 or 3 baby mamas they be stacking them up. But it can get a little ghetto over time.
He was being polite about it, but yeah, that's what he wanted to say. It can change.
That's what we saying. And I remember she told me that before, because when I used to be looking at certain residenciales when we were looking to move, she would say a lot of time those things be new at first and then they turn real ghetto. You know what I mean? Yeah, it happens over time. So be aware of that. You know what I mean? It may, after you move there in a couple of years, another year or 2, you might just see a little something, then another year pass by, a few months or something, and all of a sudden things can shift. And that's because a lot of times the owners begin to move. You know what I mean? And the rest, the WIC section moves in, the EBT section.
I was going to add something too. What he said was right, but I was going to add something. Sometimes, when the residenciales are,
no, go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes when the residenciales are in like the far out outskirts, the government wants to populate those areas. They want to build it up, so they make it really attractive for people. So what they do is they'll be like high end, low income housing, like really nice apartments, but then they'll be like for people that I guess are low income. You know what I mean? Like it's an opportunity to give people to buy their own. So they'll give them like subsidies, they'll give them bonuses, they'll give them incentives to move in there. They'll make the payments easy for them. So sometimes you'll end up, even though they're owners, you'll end up moving in a location with a lot of people that have never lived in a residencial before. And I guess they're used to living. They
still had a little,
They're used to living in a location where it's okay to play, loud music at 3:00 in the morning because they're not used to being around people that go to work and go to school every day. So it's okay for them to do certain, like it's okay for them to sit outside and drink, like, beers or whatever in the
It's okay for your 8-year-old to chill naked all day.
I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah. We didn't came in before, like, this was a while back though. They finally moved. It's like, that little is always naked.
He would always be outside, just walking around naked, barefoot.
What? We were headed up to the roof one day. And we looked like, there's a little boy down there naked. We didn't know he was in the building because he was in the back. We just could see him. Next thing we know, we find out that's the little summer gun that lived in our building. Naked every day. Like I don't know. I guess they didn't want to waste clothes or something.
And he wasn't a baby.
No. That's what I'm saying. Little 8-year-old, it's okay to, your little 8-year-old running around naked every day.
Yeah. So that's something to take into consideration. Sometimes they just don't know any better, No. So you might want to ask, what are the policies that the residencial has against, like, loud music, what's prohibited in the common areas. A lot of these places have pools. They'll have playgrounds for children. Yeah,
children's playground section.
Sometimes they'll have little schools in them too for kids. So what's the policy about those common areas? What does the residencial? So ask questions about that so you can kind of see, what rules they have and what happens if the rules are broken.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, here's one that I thought about right now, and I don't want to forget, parking. And like, you'll have your assigned parking, but something you got to be aware of, do they just let other people park anywhere? Or do they, because some residentiales, they'll slap a boot on someone who think they can just park anywhere.
Yeah. If someone is in your parking, you can call security and security will put like the thing on the wheel so the car can't move or anything.
Yeah.
And then to take it off, they'll fine you.
Yeah.
X amount of money because you're inconvenienced. You're in my parking space.
Yeah, or if they just you drive around and see if there's just people parked. You can tell when people are parked just anywhere. Meaning like, this isn't a parking space. Yeah. The car is just sitting over there
on
or
a curb.
Something. Yeah, or something like that. So, just check those type of things out. You know what I mean? Because you need to ask about those.
Definitely.
So this is one that you should ask about, because there's something called maintenance, and you kind of want to know when they're going to do maintenance there. And it's not just maintenance if they're coming to fix something. Tell them about maintenance.
So in the common areas, like the areas that are like the children playground, the outside where there's green grass, and then in the inside, the hallways and stuff like that, it has to be cleaned and kept up. So, check and see, how many times is that cleaned during the week? What's the process there? When the buildings look a certain way, how often do they paint the buildings? Do you get charged for that? Is that included in something? Like, ask questions about the upkeep. Right. What about if there's a crack on one of the roads? What happens there? Like what are the policies that they have to make sure that everything stays
looking
nice and I guess clean and
how often do they clean the hallways outside your apartment? Something like that. So you can ask about those things. Those things are called maintenance and stuff. It's the upkeep. And so these are just little things. Just because if you didn't ask these little things, they could easily become big things.
Yeah, I mean, you come here and you're so excited and you see all these opportunities, and some of them are really economic, and you're excited and you want to come, and you look at it, and when you look at it, you're like, wow, this place is beautiful. So you come, you invest, and then when you invest, you don't ask any of the right questions, and now you're stuck with a property and you don't know what to do with it.
That's getting worse by the month.
And then what ends up happening is it's hard for you to get rid of it.
Yep.
Because everybody else knows.
Everybody knows. Yeah, and it's gone.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that a lot.
Yep.
So, something to take into consideration before renting or purchasing or something.
So the last one, this is going to be a quick video for the first time. The last one, security. So we call these gated communities. Most of them have a security booth. And so you want to find out, what would they need to ask about the security booth?
Well, is it 24-hour security? What if someone who doesn't live in the residencial wants to come in the residencial? What's the process?
Right.
How do you allow them in?
Right.
Like for example, in the gated community where we live at, if you're not from here and you want to gain access to it, they ask you to provide your ID, and then they take a photo of your ID and they log it and they register it, and they have like your car information. So if you come in, they know who you are and they see when you leave.
Exactly.
So they don't just let anybody in, and they ask you, well, where are you going? So then they have all of that like recorded and logged in if you come in or if you go out or whatever. And for you to get in, you have to have like access codes to everything.
Yeah, they have a visitor side of the security booth you pull in versus when you live here on another side, and they're pretty good about it. But you just have to make sure, right? Because you don't want anybody just coming in and out. You know what I mean? And so that's good. That's a good thing to ask about, is the security and
just even the patrol. Our security guys drive around in a moto. And then you hear them all the time just driving around looking to see that everything is okay.
Yeah, they do their job. They definitely do their job. So these are the things that you need to ask about. And what was it? Water, electricity,
garbage.
Be aware of your neighbors, your favorite people.
Quack, quack, quack.
Ask about the upkeep, maintenance,
and security.
So these are the things that, trash.
Yeah, garbage. We said garbage.
We said garbage?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the things you want to ask about. These seem like just little things, and this was a little video, but actually those are very, very important things. Because I'm telling you, they could turn your nice apartment that you just love so much into a nightmare in a matter of months because you didn't know. You know what I'm saying? You didn't really ask these things, and you're gonna be more frustrated than the people who live here because they kind of know a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit will hurt you. You know what I'm saying? You be trying to throw up your hands and make videos, and talk about how much you hate DR and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just for not asking those right questions.
And we want you to enjoy your experience here. We want you to come in and live and live happy. Just ask these questions, and you might be okay with the answers. You might not.
Yep. It's a good thing before you know what I'm saying, sign your lease or, make your purchase. So, I think we broke a record. That had to be the fastest video we've done. But we gave you heavy information. We didn't tell you. We always wait to the end to tell you. Like
and subscribe.
Love, Purpose, and Passports.
Bye.
Peace.
Gracias.